This is not about money, Meri Brown stated firmly, her voice ringing out above the hushed courtroom. This is about truth. She appeared before the judge, her hands held fast together. After years of spiritual marriage to Kody Brown, Meri had finally had enough and taken her hurt to court. It wasn't merely a matter of betrayal, it was about being lied to, erased and humiliated, with the cameras rolling for the world to see. Across the courtroom, Kody and Robyn sat, their attorneys mouthing and papers rustling. But they couldn't hide behind interviews and soundbites or edits now. This was the real deal. I gave them everything, said Meri. My heart, my faith, my money. And they gave me sown. The courtroom doors creaked softly as Robyn Brown stepped toward the witness stand. Her heels clicked faintly on the tile floor, but each step felt like thunder in Meri's ears. Everyone was watching. Camera crews, reporters, and most of all, the rest of the family. Christine, Janelle, and Gwen sat behind Meri, arms folded, faces tense. No one moved. Robyn sat down, wiping beneath her eyes as the bailiff swore her in. Her voice trembled. I never wanted this to happen, she began. Barely above a whisper. Meri was. She was family to me. The judge nodded for the attorney to begin. Meri's lawyer, a sharp but calm woman in her 40s, named Miss Darden, stepped forward. She held no notes, just a single manila folder. Mrs. Brown, she said softly. You say that you never lied to Meri. Is that true? Robyn nodded hastily. Yes, I always told her the truth. I was a supporter of hers. Miss Darden leaned her head to one side. Even when you requested that the TLC producers edit her out of important scenes? The room tensed. Robyn blinked. I what? Miss Darden opened the folder. Exhibit 12. An internal email from you to TLC's executive producer Sandra L., dated October 2020. She read aloud, Hi Sandra, just a heads up. Meri was a mess again today. Crying withdrawn. I don't think it fits the direction the family brands needs right now. Maybe keep her minimized in the final cut, too emotional, too off-brand. Robyn's face burned right away. Take it out of context, she stuttered. I was simply trying to preserve the family reputation. By keeping her quiet, Miss Darden cut in briskly. Robyn addressed the judge. You have to understand, Meri wasn't in a good place. She was snapping at all of us. Kody was stressed, the kids were frazzled, and Meri kept distancing herself. She was hurting us too. Meri got up from her chair, not able to contain it. Her voice broke like thunder in the quiet. I was upset because you made me feel that I still counted. A murmur went around the courtroom. Even Kody glanced at the ground. Emotional impact and witness reaction behind Meri. Christine's hand was over her mouth. She had warned Meri for years about Robyn, about the favoritism, the control, the silent manipulation. But Meri, as blind as she was loyal, had always stood up for Robyn. Until this moment. Gwen, sitting next to Christine, leaned forward. Her eyes were brimming with tears. She used you, Gwen whispered. Robyn glared at Meri, desperate to speak. But the words remained stuck. Miss Darden was not finished. So Mrs. Brown, was that the only time you jumped in on Meri's place in the family? Robyn's attorney jumped to her feet. Objection irrelevant. Sustained, declared the judge. But the harm was done. Robyn's credibility shattered like brittle glass under stress. Flashback evidence. A pattern of exclusion. Miss Darden presented season 16 footage, unaired, but provided under a TLC subpoena. Robyn and Kody were seen whispering on their front porch in it. Robyn, if she's still here next year, the show's going to change again. Christine's already left. Meri's the last issue. Kody, then we shut her up. I'll speak to her. Again. Robyn's complexion in court went white as a ghost. I don't recall that conversation, she muttered. The judge edged forward. It's on tape, Mrs. Brown. Meri gripped a tissue tightly in her lap. Her lips shook, but her voice didn't. You lied to my face. For years, the bailiff read the next name. Mr. Kody Brown. Please take the stand. A silence fell across the courtroom. Kody slowly stood up, realigning the cuffs of his suit jacket, visibly shaken. Gone was his bravado, the authoritative voice, the larger-than-life presence he presented on TV. He was in the spotlight now, not as a husband or father, but as a man accused of emotional cruelty, dishonesty, and manipulation. Meri didn't glance away as he came closer. Neither did Gwen. Janelle leaned forward, her jaw set. Christine's hands were folded tightly in her lap. Kody was sworn in, and Meri's lawyer, Miss Darden, came forward with quiet deliberation. Mr. Brown, she started, describe to us your relationship with Meri during the last few years leading up to your separation. Kody cleared his throat. Distant, he replied. We weren't close any longer. We knew it, but you kept showing up with her on camera like nothing was the matter. I was attempting to provide stability, he defended. For the family. For the show? Miss Darden cocked her head. You mean? For the cameras? Cody's lips compressed. I was doing the best that I could. The lies come apart. Miss Darden moved closer. Let's discuss some of the things you told Meri in private, versus what you told everyone else. She clutched a pile of transcripts. In this text message in 2021, you said to Meri, I still believe in us. We're eternal. And 3 weeks later, on national TV, you said, I don't see any real relationship with Meri anymore. I'm not interested in repairing it. The courtroom fell silent in shock. Kody swallowed hard. Was that a lie? She asked. No, he bit out. It was complicated. Meri's voice sounded out, steady but with flames of passion. It was manipulation. Kody turned to her. You wouldn't let go. I didn't want to hurt you. You didn't want to lose control. Meri retorted. Janelle and Christine react. In the gallery, Janelle shook her head. A rise of tears. He did the same to me, she mumbled to Christine. Fed me hope while he moved on behind closed doors. Christine slowly nodded. We were all kept in the dark. Just enough attention to keep us in line. Just enough distance to keep us powerless. Kody became more and more restless on the stand. Do you think this was easy for me? He exclaimed. Handling 4 marriages, raising 18 children, surviving in the limelight. None of you realize the pressure I was under. Miss Darden did not blink. So your defense is that you lied to make it easy? Kody scowled. I was trying to keep peace. And instead, she continued, voice rising, you established a kingdom of confusion, pain, and silence. You said what Meri wanted you to say, so she wouldn't leave, so you could maintain the audience. And the income. The evidence that shattered his defense. She swept the gaze towards the jury box. Let's examine Exhibit 18. Bank statements and email exchanges between Kody and the executive producers of the show. On the courtroom screen was displayed a trail of documents. A chronology of TLC contracts with Kody requesting more attention on Robyn, changing storylines from Meri, and seeking approval for editing. In one of the emails he said, the emotional angles with Meri aren't working anymore. Too messy. Let's keep her quiet this season. Gwen, who sat just behind her father, gasped loudly. Her hand went to her mouth. Christine reached out and put a hand on her daughter's knee. I didn't know, Gwen breathed. I thought he was trying. Meri's breath snagged, but she did not cry. She had cried enough for an eternity. Now, she stood in reality. Just when the courtroom thought it had heard the worst, Meri's lawyer stood again. Your Honor, Miss Darden said, voice calm but firm. We'd like to call a final witness. Gwen Brown. A collective gasp echoed through the gallery. Kody's head snapped around. Robyn went pale. No, Kody muttered under his breath. She's not involved in this. But it was too late. Gwen, Christine's daughter and one of Kody's most vocal children, stepped forward, steadfast, unruffled, but clearly restraining tears. She sat down and took the oath, looking at her father, but only once. Miss Brown, Miss Darden said softly, you called us after you heard what this case was really all about. Emotional abuse and lies. Why is that? Gwen took a deep breath. Because I can't keep playing along, she replied. Not after what I've witnessed. I grew up observing my dad promise things he never delivered. I watched him blow Meri off for years, yet continue to tell her off camera that she just needed to be patient. He'd gaslight her, tell her things like, you're imagining this, Meri. You're too sensitive. And then I'd hear him joke later on with Robyn that Meri would never ever leave, no matter how horribly she was treated. The courtroom was silent as a tomb. Gwen's voice broke but remained firm. I was 17 when I first understood it wasn't just a failed marriage, it was intentional, strategic. Kody shook his head, muttering, "She's confused. She's a kid." But Gwen didn't relent. I recall a day, I was in the kitchen, and Robyn said to Dad, "If Meri isn't going to shape up, we'll lose everything." And he said, "Don't worry, I'll talk to her down. She still believes there's hope." They both laughed. Meri covered her mouth, crying quietly. The moment that broke the family, Gwen looked at her father. "You used us. You used Mom. You used Meri. You used all the women in your life until they didn't serve your ego anymore." Kody's face contorted in anger. "I was raising a huge family. Do you have any idea what that took?" Christine rose from the gallery. "It didn't take lies. Kody," the judge banged the gavel. "Enough." But the cat was already out of the bag. Gwen went on, softer now. "Meri begged for love. She begged to count. And you, both of you." She shot at Robyn, allowed her to wither in silence. Robyn finally collapsed. Full tears. "I didn't mean," but Gwen interrupted her. "You meant to save yourself. You knew she was broken, and still trampled on her to maintain your position." Even Janelle speaks in a dramatic instant. Janelle Brown stood up. "Your Honor," she interrupted, requesting to be heard. The judge permitted it. "I was there too. Not always near Meri, but I witnessed what was taking place. She was held over like a ghost, present, but not tangible. Kody would offer her just enough affection to keep her in a haze. And Robyn, she used silence as a weapon." Meri wiped tears from her face. Her hands trembled. This was no longer just a court hearing. This was a peeling away of decades of emotional combat. There was silence in the courtroom. Even breathing sounds could not be heard. The judge glanced through the gallery, visibly shaken by what had taken place over the previous hours. The emotional testimony, the shattered trust, the revealed manipulation, and a family torn apart by deceit disguised as love. Meri sat silently, her hands clasped in her lap, red-rimmed eyes tightly focused. Kody slumped over, massaging his temples. Robyn gazed at the floor, shaking. The judge cleared his throat, having carefully considered the evidence, heard various testimonies, and viewed the intensely personal emotional cost this has imposed on everyone involved. This court recognizes that although no physical abuse was put forward, a pattern of emotional coercion, manipulation, and willful deceit has been established, most notably against Miss Meri Brown. Meri breathed in slowly. This was the moment she had waited years for, not one of revenge, but for something no one ever offered her: validation. The court's decision. The judge went on. "This court cannot erase the past, but it will acknowledge that psychological and reputational damage were done by both Mr. Kody Brown and Mrs. Robyn Brown, knowingly and with repeated disregard for Miss Brown's welfare." Gasps filled the courtroom. Considering the evidence, internal emails with producers, family member testimony, and willful public misrepresentation, this court grants Meri Brown a public formal apology, plus an award for emotional distress and damage to reputation, which amounts to $280,000. Robyn gasped, almost passing out. Kody shook his head wildly. "This is crazy." The gavel came down. "Mr. Brown, be quiet." Kody's last words. The judge granted both sides a closing statement. Kody rose, his face red. "I loved her once," he grumbled. "But people change. I didn't sign up to be dragged through the mud, because I couldn't make everyone happy." He turned toward Meri. "I'm sorry you're hurt. But I didn't lie, not initially." Meri remained still. She'd heard this type of pseudo-apology before. The courtroom had. It wasn't sufficient. Robyn tries to explain. Then Robyn stood. Mascara smudged down her cheeks, voice trembling. "I never meant it to happen. I really did consider Meri a sister. I felt like I was defending everyone. I panicked when I saw the family disintegrating." She addressed Meri. "You can't imagine how much I resented being the favored one. I didn't ask for that." Meri finally looked up. "But you didn't reject it either." Robyn collapsed into tears, sitting down. Meri's last words. "I am not invisible." Then it was Meri's turn. She stood slowly, firm, unyielding. "I don't need their love anymore," she declared, her voice firm. "I don't need their approval. I needed the truth, and I never got it until I had to drag it out in this courtroom." She addressed Kody and Robyn. "You kept me around because it was pretty. Because it kept the show on the air. You led me to believe I was broken, when in fact, I was just inconvenient. She inched closer. I am not invisible. I never was. You merely chose not to see me. The room took a collective breath. I spent years hoping for scraps. Now I walk away with peace. The aftermath outside the courthouse. There were reporters everywhere. But Meri didn't address the cameras. She passed by them with her head held high. Not the discarded wife, or the background figure. Not the one who hung around too long. But the woman who had lived. Gwen hugged Christine behind her. Janelle wiped away a tear. Robyn was ushered into a car, dodging the flashes of light. Kody pushed through reporters, cursing under his breath. The Brown family would never be the same. But at last Meri was free.